Hey friends, welcome back to the Burn Stress Lose Weight podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Priyanka Venugopal. I am incredibly excited to bring to you today's guest. This is my client, Dr. Hazel Abinsay. She is a physician out of Hawaii. We met at a conference a few months ago, and one 10-minute conversation that we happened to just have casually over lunch really changed the trajectory of how Hazel was thinking about her weight loss and wellness journey. She was someone that was saying that she felt like she was just trying to catch up and stay on top of every single day. She felt like she had no time to take care of herself, but that one conversation started to have her challenge some of her most limiting beliefs that were really the reason that she was stuck on the scale. I cannot wait for you to listen to today's conversation with Hazel. She shares how she has lost 20 pounds in the last 3 months without feeling deprived, and how our work in this group and how coaching has really unlocked her feeling better. She said happier with her family, more present with her kids. She has so much more time now as she's hitting goals. And if you love this conversation and you know that you want this work in your life, I really want to encourage you to apply to the upcoming cohort of the Unstoppable group. You can get all of the details over at www.burnstressloseweight.com/group. I have all of the group details, the nuts, the bolts, the bells and whistles all laid out for you on that page. There's a button that says apply now. Answer a few questions so I can get to know you, and then we will set up a time to talk on a consult call and decide if working together in this group is going to be a best fit for you. So without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Dr. Hazel Abinsay. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. Today I am joined by my lovely client. This is Dr. Hazel Abinsay. Hazel, tell us about you, and we're going to get into, I have so many questions for you because I'm just obsessed with your story. I cannot wait to hear and have you share with us. So tell us about you and how we found each other.
Hi, Priyanka. Thank you for having me. I am a full-time outpatient pediatrician here in Hawaii, and I first met Priyanka at a money wealth conference in Honolulu in February. So that was about 3 months ago. And so I went into that conference really focused on money, learning how to be better about our finances. And then unexpectedly, this wonderful relationship came out of it on the very first day. And that's where I first met you.
Love it. Yeah, it's so funny. You come in with one thing and you leave with something kind of unexpected, which we're going to get into.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
take us back to before
Hmm.
February. Tell me, what was life like for you? You're a busy physician. You are, taking care of patients and family and all the things that we do as busy professional women. Take us back to what life was like before February for you.
So I have two little boys. I have a 2-year-old and now a 7-year-old. And then I'm a full-time pediatrician. So that was my two identities, right? Mom and doctor. And I just felt like I didn't have any time besides those two. And so between those two, I just felt like I was always just rushing. I was just always trying to survive the day. And that's how I felt prior to this. I was like, I just need to get through the day. And so a lot of times people would try to ask me things about the future. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow. You just, I just need to talk to, I only know what's happening today. And so it was a lot of me telling people like, I need you to text me again because I'm not going to remember this because I'm just trying to survive. And then in terms of my health, I've always been a yo-yo dieter. My weight has always fluctuated for 20 plus years. I would get really good and really focused, lose a bunch of weight. And then once I was at a happy place, those habits, I lost them and then slowly it would creep up again. And then 2, 3 years would go by, 4 or 5 years would go by, residency came by, then blew up again. And then I was like, then I did this, but if situations. And then so when I finished residency, I said, okay, I'm going to lose the weight again. So then after residency, lost the weight again,
What year
diet,
was that?
exercise, because
Because was that the 2017, 2018,
no, so residency finished in 2014.
2014?
So
Okay.
2014, yeah. So I blew up in residency and
Okay.
then I exercised, I dieted. No, I just exercised and ate healthy,
Mhm.
lost it.
Okay.
Then I got pregnant, 2017, gained
Yeah.
it, had the baby. did this diet plan that
Mhm.
helped me lose it. Then COVID happened, then gained it. So this was just
Yeah.
my life. It was just a lot
Yeah.
of yo-yoing, and I just could not maintain for the life of me. That was at the point when I met you that I was just, I didn't even expect that I was gonna go into that money conference thinking that I would come out with, okay, let's focus on our health this year. And so when I had met you, you had offered an alternative way to approach improving my life, my health, my lifestyle. I was like, you know what? I've tried so many different ways already and I couldn't get a handle on it. Let's just get help.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it myself anymore. And so I'm just tired of going up and down. I was like, I can't do this forever.
Yeah. So I'm kind of, there's a couple of things I'm curious about because, and this is for anyone that's listening, when you've had a lot of experiences in the past, as I think we all have, myself included, where you've lost weight, but then you've gained it back. And then you've tried something else, you lose weight and you gain it back. It's really normal if you have a lot of disbelief or if you feel like, you know what, maybe this is never really going to work for me. And it can make us throw in the towel and not even try anymore. And like we kind of get stuck in that cycle. So, what do you think it was that let you think that, you know what, this time it feels different and this feels different enough for me to overcome the disbelief that I might have in myself?
I definitely knew that I was in the obese range and that I needed to do something
Mm.
because blood pressure, cholesterol, my kids are young, the typical, like, I just want to live long for my kids, right? But at this rate, I know it's not going to happen. So I knew I needed to do something and I just didn't know what
Mm.
because I've tried so many things. And the whole, okay, why don't you just eat? The hard part is when you're a doctor, it's like you know what to do.
Yeah.
You preach it every day, right? Eat healthier, walk 30 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week. It's like it made me feel so frustrated in myself that I was telling my patients to do this all the time, but yet I couldn't figure out how to do it for myself. So when I had met you, I was in a place of desperation for
Mm.
help. I just didn't know where I was going to get it from. And I needed help in a different way that I've never had before. Because I've signed up for programs before and they helped, but again, I came right back. But then what you offered was a mindset shift, and it wasn't even focused on
I know. I was like,
weight.
we didn't even talk about
We didn't even talk
food.
about
We
weight.
didn't talk
Yeah, we
about
didn't
weight
talk
loss
about
at all, actually. Yeah. Oh,
we
yeah. We were
did.
sitting at lunch and you were talking about your
Yes.
time.
Yes, yes, yes. Right. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
really, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize how my time management was part of the bigger problem.
That's right.
And you just made me realize so much over that one lunch period for 10 minutes. And then okay, so do you want me to just go
Yeah,
back
I
to the
want you to
lunch?
backtrack. I want everyone to really
Okay,
hear because
okay.
Hazel, this is literally one of the number one thoughts that professional women have is about their time. And it makes sense because professional working moms really do have a lot on their plate. So if they have thoughts that they don't have enough time, it makes a lot of sense. But it was also the reason that was keeping you stuck. So yeah, tell us
Right,
exactly what that
right.
story was.
Okay. So at the conference, one of the first topics that Bonnie Crew had set up was what area in your life do you want to work on in 2025? So it's my family, it's my career, it's XYZ. And I said, my health, right?
Mm.
And so that's what I journaled on our book. And then when I think it was just meant to be that you were the coach that was set on our table that day. And then over our lunch period, you had asked the question of, okay, so what was your goal that you had written down for 2025? And then I said, my health. And then you had said, okay, what's stopping you? And then
Mhm.
I said, I just don't have time. I just don't have time to exercise, even though that's how much I want to. And she's like, well, there's only 24 hours in the day, Hazel. You can't fix that. But what is it about your time that's stopping you? And I really thought about it. And then I said, my gut instinct was to say, my charting,
Charts.
right? I
Yeah.
spend so much time charting. And then
Mm.
you said, okay, so what can you do about that? And then my initial answer at that time was like, I could hire a scribe because I'm in private practice.
Mhm.
But after that, I went home and really reflected on your line of there's only 24 hours in a day, Hazel. What can you do to improve the way you use your time? And then I did a time audit without realizing what I was doing,
No.
without
We talked about
realizing
this.
what
I was like, I was blown away when you did this. Yeah.
But I didn't even realize what I was doing. But then I reflected on the way I was using my time, and I realized how much time was actually scrolling on social media as my way of decompressing from the stresses of the day. That's what
Right.
I was telling myself, right? Is so what I would do is I would wake up maybe around 5:30. I would automatically pick up my phone, start scrolling social media, and then I would lose track of time. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I have to get up. I have to get the kids ready. Boom, 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 boom. I'm stressed. There's traffic. And now I'm starting the day off stressed, right?
Mhm.
And then busy day, then I would get home and then I would sit in my car for 30 minutes before I go inside the house and be a mom.
What were
And
you
I
doing
would
in the
social,
30 minutes? What were you
I would
doing
be
with?
scrolling because
Right.
I was telling myself,
Right.
I need to
Yeah.
decompress. I need to
Right.
decompress from the day and this is my me time.
Totally.
But then I get into the house and now it's like, okay, I gotta feed the kids. I gotta clean the dishes. I gotta get the homework done. And then when the kids are in bed, then what do I do again before I go to sleep? Is I was scroll again. And then now my sleeping was late because you just lose track of time. So then I was sleeping later, and then in the middle of the night, sometimes I would wake up because my 2-year-old wakes up. And then when he's finally down, I pick up my phone again and I'm
Right.
scrolling just for a little bit. And so my sleep pattern was all off. I was not sleeping well. I was not utilizing my time well. And so after I did that time audit, I was like, oh my gosh, my scrolling, which I was using as my me time,
Right.
my decompressing time, I work so hard, I just need to do this for me, was actually making my stress worse.
Right.
And then I was using scrolling as my stress reliever.
It's
It
a
was a
cycle. It's a
cycle.
really, and Hazel, I was so
Yes.
glad because you came to our consult call having done that time audit. And I think that what was fascinating, and this is not just you, this is for anyone that really doesn't audit over what we are categorizing as me time and decompression, because all professional women need that. We need to have guilt-free rest, give our brains a real proper rest. When we're using snacking and scrolling, as we've uncovered, you actually feel worse afterwards. You feel more tired. Your brain and your body feel worse. You have more regret. So, how can it possibly be me time if it's making you feel worse, which I think was such an
Mhm.
important insight for you.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
then what happened? So then
So
what happened?
so I said delete Instagram off
Yeah.
my phone. I deleted social media. I came off social media. And then I said, I need to be purposeful about the way I use my time. So then residency has taught me to be like a checkboxy kind of girl, right?
Mhm.
And so I downloaded an app where I now created structure in my day,
Mm.
right? So every night, I started with, let's just start with the next day. So I said, I'm going to wake up at this time. I'm going to wake up my kids at this time. I just planned out my whole day, right?
This is
And I said, I'm
magic,
going to leave the house.
action, structure. This is
Decisions.
magic,
Yes,
action,
yes,
structure, making decisions. So you
yes.
basically repurposed the time that you were probably even less than what you were spending scrolling on simply rehearsing the next day,
Correct.
which is huge. Okay.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing, right? And it wasn't until I took your mini strategy class that I realized what I was doing, and it made so much more sense. So what I was doing is I was taking all the decisions that I had to make the following day. I was doing them the night before in a setting where I wasn't stressed, where I wasn't pressured for time, and
Mm.
I could just make those choices already. So it's such simple decisions as what are we going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner? The order of my errands. What are the errands going to be? What am I going to buy at that store when we go there? What are the things that I need to make sure that are done tomorrow? And I put a specific place in my schedule to get them done, right? I didn't just say like get them done at some point during the day.
Right.
Like I said, we're going to do it at this hour. And so magically, when I did that, I like checkboxing, so then
Mhm.
I
You
was
get to check it
following
off the
it.
box. Yeah.
Yes, and it just made me feel so much more accomplished at
Mhm.
the end of the day when everything that I had set myself to do, I actually did it. And so it was crazy how when that was done and I wasn't scrolling anymore, I was sleeping the time I said I was going to sleep. I was waking up the time I said I was going to wake up. I felt like I had more time.
Mm.
And that was a magical feeling because I was more structured in my mornings. I wasn't stressed anymore in my mornings. I wasn't yelling at my kids. I wasn't fighting and mad at traffic. The kids were getting to school at a good hour, at a good time. And my day just started off so much less stressed. And so that creating a structure in the day, and it sounds so simple, but I don't know why my brain couldn't have done this sooner
But
and
Hazel,
create.
it's so important that we know because this is like a lot of what we talk about. You know, when we talk in the group about doing the work is actually simple. Sometimes the concepts that you learn, like in our coaching calls, it's like, oh, it's actually something really simple. But the reason that we don't do those simple things is number one, we didn't know about them. But more important than that is because we are so attached to a story that is preventing us from seeing a simple truth. Like for you, it was, I don't have time. So while you believe I don't have time, you're not going to sit down the night before and make these decisions because you're holding on to the story of I don't have time to do that. We have to bust that bubble first to actually
Mhm.
show you, oh, wait a second, maybe I do have the time if I repurposed my time to actually create an opening for something that's simple like this.
Yes. And so it was magical. And then your words about magic action decisions the night before and making all those decisions when you're not in a stress state has relieved such a burden off my shoulders for whatever reason because I just go through the day without thinking.
And that's what every people are like, I don't want to think about this anymore. This
Hmm.
is how you stop thinking about it. You make decisions and you don't leave them open-ended. It's
Yep.
magical.
Yeah.
So good.
It
Yeah.
was great.
So when you think about like number one, obviously, like making some of these decisions the night before, doing that rehearsal in your mind for exactly when you're doing things and when you're not doing things, you're sharing that it lifted a burden and it created more time, of course. It made you stop having to think about it. How was it impact your dynamic in the family with your kids, with your husband? Like, how did it impact more than just weight for
Yeah.
you?
Okay, so one of the things my husband would tell me is that, we would be at dinner and then you would be on your phone at some point, and I thought you were working, and then come to find out you were on social media.
Mm.
Or at night before bed when the kids are winding down. I sound like I had such a addiction to social media.
No, this is
But
all of us. This is not just you. Yeah.
right, the kids are right there, and I would be on my phone, and then so all of that went away. So I just became so much more present at
Mm.
home, so much more present at home with my kids, with my husband. I was just more interactive with them. I'm yelling at my kids less in the morning. So I think they gained a happier mom, a
Mm.
happier spouse, a more present mom, and I felt so much more peaceful.
Do you feel like, what about the me time? Because, if we're used to using, and I know, because I go down the Instagram rabbit hole all the time sometimes. Like it's one of those things that can be so compelling. So if you're not doing that for your time to have your me time, or you're not snacking and randomly grazing on food for your me time, then how did you solve for that? Being able to give your brain a real break.
So one of the most interesting things when we had our first consult call, when I had wanted to join you, was you had asked me, what do you do for play? What is your you? What do you do for fun just for you?
You laughed at
Because
me, I think.
and
I
then
think
you
you,
said you actually, and you had to like dumb it down for me because
no,
I was like, what do you
what is that?
mean? What are you talking about? And and you said, what are your hobbies, Hazel?
Yeah. What are we doing for fun? Remember
What are we
fun?
doing for fun for your, yeah, fun? And I was like, and then I cried because I was like, I don't have hobbies. I don't have time for that. And
Mm.
I didn't have anything in my daily life that was for me. Now, now things are different. My very first time I had met you and I said, I don't have time to exercise. I exercise now. It's in my schedule.
Mm.
I exercise 4 or 5 times a week now. I go on walks for an hour and a half. I'm in nature,
Mm.
listening to music, listening to really uplifting podcasts,
Mhm.
things that are inspiring. You talk about these different buckets of play. What are the good ones, the negative ones, the neutral ones? I found that taking baths, hot baths, is a
Yeah.
great way
Yeah.
to decrease my stress level. So that's happening more. I'm still working on it. I'm trying to figure out what else I can do. But yeah,
That's so
so I'm
good. Yeah, I
definitely
remember that
exercising.
part of the conversation because, and there's so many women. I'm like, so like, what do you do for fun? And it's like they look at me with this confused look on their face, like, what exactly do you mean? Because we're busy professional women. And I think sometimes you might have like a exercise, you might call exercise, like, well, I exercise. But does it feel like play? Does it feel like you're actually getting the you time that you're wanting and deserving? Because most of the time, I would say that that's a huge strategic gap that we don't know that we have.
I've never thought of exercise as like a fun, like I
Yeah,
don't consider that as a hobby.
that's
I'm not
right.
one of those. I'm
Yeah.
not one of those, but I've learned how to make it fun for
Mm,
me.
yeah.
And so I walk, but then I'm also listening to other people's experiences.
Hmm.
So podcasting is one of those things I just never have the time to listen to. But then with these 1 hour walks I listen to now, at the end of a walk, I'm like, wow, that was really inspirational. Plus, I
Yeah.
got to exercise.
It's like, when you start to surround yourself with messaging that is not just like rah cheerleader positive, but like really strategically, how are we going to improve our health, our wealth, our wellness? You
Hmm.
start to create more of that because that's what's coming into your brain, which is what I really love
Hmm.
about coaching.
Yes,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
when we first met in February, remind me if I'm wrong, I think that you got access to the group early. You got access
Hmm.
to the curriculum and the videos and like the
Hmm.
material. What did you feel coming into the group, having gotten earlier access to it? Like, do you feel like you already started creating wins and seeing, the scale come down and feeling better? And then what was the shift that started to happen for you once we actually started coaching?
Once I started listening to your mini strategy class,
Mm.
right? So your mini strategy class was one of the first audio 1 hour classes that you taught. I've actually listened to it multiple times
Yeah.
because I feel like you cover a lot of topics that I feel like I need to hear it over and over again. And so things that you talked about in that one class was things like listening to your body, hunger cues, allowing yourself to feel the discomfort of being hungry. And that's okay
Hmm.
because your body will just use your natural,
Yeah.
basically your fat,
Yeah. It'll
right?
dine
And
in.
so
Yeah.
it's
If you
okay
happen to get to
to
hungry, your
dine in,
body will
right?
dine in. Yes.
Right. So I think residency has taught us to like eat when you can. You
Mm.
might not be hungry now, but you have to eat when there's those windows. But then you taught me on that videos like you don't have to eat if you're not hungry. Listen to your body because you allow yourself to be hungry, allow yourself to feel a little uncomfortable. That's okay. As long
Hmm.
as you tell yourself that when you can, when the time comes, you will eat.
Yeah.
So simple. I was like, yeah, why do I keep eating when I'm not hungry?
Yeah.
When I know I'm gonna be able to eat in like a couple of hours. So then that was one of the things that I had to start doing is waiting to eat,
Hmm.
right? And so then you also talk about intermittent fasting as a way. And so my husband used to do intermittent fasting, and his window was from 12 to 8. And so I tried it once and a couple of times and I was like, I have to eat breakfast. So I said, I can't do intermittent fasting.
Hmm.
Right. But there was something that you said where go with the flow, nothing's perfect. It doesn't have to be so strict. And so I was like, why don't I shift my hours to be like 8 to 5? Because
Hmm.
I need to eat breakfast, but I don't need to eat dinner so
Hmm.
much. And
Hmm.
so I shifted. And so when I did that, like amazing improvements in my weight loss. So
Hmm.
I intermittent fasted,
Yeah.
but I shifted the schedule that I
Yeah.
thought it had to be this way. And then
Yeah.
you even said it doesn't have to be 8 hours,
Yeah,
where your
I think that that
window.
is actually a big piece of that strategy mini class. And even the way that I talk about intermittent fasting right now, because I think that there are some people that can take intermittent fasting and overuse it. And when you overuse it, then you end up under eating, and then that can slow your metabolism down in the long run.
Hmm.
But when we
Hmm.
use intermittent fasting like a really savvy tool, which is I'm going to eat and I'm also going to give my body a break from eating. Like I'm just not going to be grazing 24/7. I'm going to eat enough nutrition in the intermittent fasting window. You will just amp up your ability to access fat,
Right.
actually burn fat, which I think is really, really impactful.
Right. And I think intermittent fasting coupled with magic action decisions
Mhm.
the night before made the process so much easier for me, where I said, okay, this is what I'm going to eat at 8:30, at 12, at whatever.
Yeah.
Whenever the hunger cue comes in, this is what I'm gonna eat. Because some people when they intermittent fast and there's no plan for what they're gonna do during that time,
Mhm.
they just go to town, whatever
Yeah.
is available,
Yeah.
and then they overeat. And so that I feel like a combination of that too was really effective for me.
Yeah. And that was even
And
before the program started, I think, for you.
that was just listening to
Yeah, just that.
your
Yeah.
yeah. This is before we even started actually active coaching. So things like that. It was
Mhm.
just these little small tweaks in my daily habits that I implemented, listening to your call, that I saw was really helping my metabolism,
Right.
my weight loss. Yeah.
So, what do you think it was since we started coaching and you started experiencing coaching, like actually, not just like what you hear on a podcast, not passively
Uh-huh.
consuming a video, which is very different than like you actually experiencing real-time coaching? What do you think has been your experience of that and what's been your
So,
takeaways?
so I really appreciate you, Priyanka, for our coaching call 2 weeks ago when we talked about time. But then somehow what also came out of it was, what did I do wrong in the past yo-yos? Like, where did you go wrong? What happened when you were starting to see yourself go up? And
Mhm.
so my problem has always been maintenance,
Mhm.
right? And so one of the things that came out of discussion was like, I'm just afraid with coaching
Yeah.
that I'm gonna lose the weight and then I'm gonna just gain it back again. Like
Yes.
how is this different from
Yes.
all the other plans, diets
Yes.
I've tried in the
Very good
past,
question.
right? Yeah. And so what you helped me come to realize at that point, or you asked me,
That's right. I was like, so
coach,
let's coach on this. Let's go there because
right?
this is anyone listening, which is okay, I can do a coaching program and I will lose weight, but what if I gain it back? And it's not
Mhm.
what if, you will gain. That's how our bodies are, right? You're going to gain a few pounds, but like what happens then? That was what I asked you.
Mhm.
Okay, so then what
Right,
happened?
right. So then you had drawn this curve, like, hey, you're losing the weight, and then your weight's picking up again.
Yeah.
And then you had asked me, when you see yourself picking up again, what happens right there to you, Hazel? Like,
Yeah.
what are you thinking at that point? And so that is something that I've never reflected on. I've never asked myself that question. I just said, once I see myself gaining the weight, I'm like, oh, here it goes again. I'm
Mm.
gonna just gain it again. This is just the cycle of my body,
Mm.
right? And so now you're really asking me to be very mindful and thoughtful and reflective on that moment when I see myself starting to gain again. And so it was that mindset of like, I'm just failing again. And I just let go. It's like, this
Mhm.
is just what I do. I was using my body as my reason for why I gained the weight back. But really it's mind, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that you help me realize was that I hated the process of all the other times I had lost weight. I was depriving myself. I was on these different diets where I was eating packets,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Artificial packets, and I was only eating one meal a day, or
Mm.
I was really calorie restricting, and I
Yeah.
didn't love the
I
process.
mean, they worked,
They worked.
but they didn't last because, yeah, you didn't love it.
And so when I saw myself gaining again, I was at that mindset. I don't want to do that again. I don't
Yeah.
want to put my body and myself through it. It was not a happy person.
Mhm.
So instead of going back to the plans that I didn't love, I gained it back. That's what helped me at that point when you told me, like, what happens here? It's me telling myself, I didn't like what I went through. I
Mhm.
didn't like the process of how I got to my weight loss, and I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
Right. And so what's
Yeah.
happening with your coaching is you have always emphasized you need to love your process.
Yeah.
You need to love what you're going through. And it's taken me and it's taken a couple other women in our cohort to, we've asked you so many times, like, what do you mean by love our process?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so now I've come to realize that I'm still eating what I love during this weight loss.
Mhm.
I still get to enjoy. So like for Mother's Day, we still went to my favorite restaurant because that's where I wanted to go. I still eat the slice of like, or the piece of cake. I
Mhm.
still take a bite of that ice cream, things I would never have done on previous plans.
Mhm.
But now I have a stronger willpower and mindset to be like, okay, I just need a small amount. I don't
Right.
need to eat the whole thing.
Right.
Right. And because I'm not depriving myself anymore, yes, the weight loss is a lot slower
Mhm.
than my previous plans,
Mhm.
but I'm not hating myself, right? I'm not angry and bitter that I'm
Yeah.
so calorie
No,
deprived
I think
every
it's
day.
interesting. I think we might have talked about this a few weeks ago during our coaching call where I talked about how to guarantee your weight loss results. And we were talking about, if you have a goal for the week, what is your guaranteed strategy to hit it? So if you want to lose 2 to 3 pounds per week, we can do that. You can create a strategy that will guarantee your results, but will you love that strategy? Will you love that plan? It's almost like Goldilocks a little bit. We have to find this Goldilocks way of eating where we are, for the most part, primarily eating high quality, nutritious foods with protein and fiber and vegetables. And also, it's like we have to ask ourselves if I want to enjoy dessert on date night, or if I want to enjoy something with my family on a Saturday evening, how would I eat those foods in a way that guarantee my results? And I think that it's like pushes us to really be more mindful and come up with those magic action decisions of this is
Mm-hmm.
exactly how I can have it's like having my cake and eating it too. It's like letting
Right.
ourselves and that listen, that like my favorite example is with the kids. Like I can love my kids. I don't like them all the time, right? So even with a weight loss strategy, we have to love our strategy. That doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy, that it's always rainbows and daisies. Like sometimes that means saying no to something and letting it be totally okay. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what makes this different from everything else I've done in the past is you're not telling me what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, how much water to consume. You're not telling me what
Yeah.
I need to do to lose weight. And that's what I used to think I needed in
Yeah.
order to lose weight. When I first met you, I said, I need you to just tell me what to do.
I know. Well, we do kind of do that in the strategy mini class, but it's like so much more than that.
Right. And it's not, it's a
Yeah.
different way,
I remember
right?
you saying, yeah. Hmm.
But now you're telling me the fundamentals of what my choices should be based on. And I'm still making the choices of what my plan looks like, right? So my choice to exercise is all you say is just you need to move,
Hmm.
right? That's what you say.
Hmm.
And so I've chosen to make walking my habit. You encourage the 10,000 steps, but then I don't get it every day, but I try.
Hmm.
But then with the eating part, I still get to choose what foods I eat every day. You're not telling me you need to eat chicken breast. You need to eat
Hmm.
like a cup of cauliflower. You're not telling me that. But you know that we know,
Yeah.
right? You know that we know what's healthy for us. So you're giving us the space to make those decisions for ourselves, catered to what we love. And so that's what I do. And so I eat the foods that I love every day. I know it's all portion control for me, which I never had before. What I used to have, but off plan, I would just
Hmm.
like go to town, but now I do it. I used to drink Starbucks every day.
Hmm.
That was part of my,
Your
I
me time.
deserve this.
Yeah. What were
Yes.
you getting at Starbucks?
Oh my gosh, you're gonna laugh. Chai latte. So I
Yeah.
know that was yours too.
Yeah.
Because I had this mindset, oh, it's tea.
I know. Yeah.
It's not a mocha frappuccino or anything.
Right.
So then I got rid of that because
Mhm.
I knew that it was high sugar because it tasted so good. But then my mind was like, oh, but you deserve this.
Yeah.
But
And
then
I
it
think
was
that
just
that's so
putting,
important, Hazel. Can you speak to that? Because, like, when you're a professional working mom and you're working really hard, it's really a very compelling story to tell yourself that you deserve fill in the blank. You deserve this treat. You deserve this snack. You deserve this scrolling time. You deserve off time from your family. How is what you have been doing in the last multiple months now really been what you deserve? I feel like, because we can talk about what we deserve and we fill it with snacks and sugar, but like, what is it that you think has bridged that gap for you?
I feel like it's the immediate dopamine rush, the way that you describe it, sense of reward
Hmm.
versus really, Hazel, what are you trying to achieve in your life? What do you want? What's the end goal for you? Bigger picture here. It's those little Starbucks that's preventing you from getting off your blood pressure meds, your cholesterol meds, predisposing you to diabetes with all that sugar. Is that daily Starbucks really worth possibly dying early and not being with your kids, which you always
Hmm.
say, I want to live long for my kids. I
Hmm.
always say that, but what am I actually doing to make that happen for myself? And so now I found other ways to reward myself, right? So I mean, I don't know if people actually think listening to inspirational podcasts is
Hmm.
rewarding yourself, but it's
Yeah.
self-help. It makes me feel
Hmm.
better. It's a different dopamine, I guess,
Totally.
where I feel inspired, right?
Hmm.
And so listening to inspirational podcasts, getting outside, being under the sun, seeing nature, those are the kind of things where I now channel my
Yeah.
me time.
Yeah.
And so I
But
like to
the
think
and
those are
the
positive.
we've talked on inside the group we talk about the three bucket system, and there are some buckets like the negative bucket, which is over scrolling, overeating, over drinking, has a negative net outcome. It still will create dopamine and endorphins, and it feels good and gives you a break, but a net negative. And I think what you're talking about, which I just really want people to hear, is that we can have net neutral and net positive buckets that also give us a break, that also really are a way to treat yourself. You might not get 100x dopamine and endorphins the way that you would with sugar and snacking and scrolling, but you are going to get some dopamine and endorphins with positive results on the other side. And
Correct.
to me, that's just the cleanest pleasure ever.
But even bigger than that is the fact that I got rid of the negative bucket things
Yeah.
and I don't feel junky because I loaded myself on sugar with Starbucks.
Hmm.
I'm less grouchy around my kids because I slept better. Those are so much more valuable to me.
Yeah.
And hearing my husband tell me, you're just a lot happier now and you're a
Mm.
lot more present now with the kids. I mean, that is invaluable to me. And so it's okay. I don't need those things
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's such a ride when we get to really marinate in what those good, like priceless results are. And it's not that you like, and again, this is so important because we go into this land of all or nothing. Like, I can never have sugar and I can never have a snack. Like, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is
Right.
having more discernment and treating our body and our brain with so much more care and regard that we're mindful of how we eat those things. So we don't feel like
Right.
trash afterwards. So we don't sabotage our brain. So we don't sabotage our like that is exactly what we're talking about. It's not all or nothing, but how do you want to eat these things and also feel good at the same time? It's like the win-wins.
So I think that's where I am now in my journey with you is that now I'm starting to figure out how to incorporate a little bit of the negative stuff into a positive way or more
Yeah.
controlled.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm gaining from this experience is I'm just a lot more aware. So things like Starbucks, right? I said, no, I didn't drink Starbucks for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, okay, Starbucks, tall, not venti,
Right.
right? And it's sugar-free vanilla latte, which gives me this still the
Yeah.
same sense of like, that same, but then it's so much more controlled now. And
Right.
it's not every day, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. And that's real life. And this is again, I know last week's coaching call, we were talking about like learning how to fall in love with the process because it creates intrinsic motivation and habits that stick longer. But part of what you're talking about is you really want to fold in enjoying a vanilla latte every now and then, enjoying that, like you want to know how, teach yourself how to do that while also hitting goals, which that's like real life, how you keep it on for a lifetime,
Yes.
which is so good.
Yes.
So, you've been talking about like the presence you're having with your family and getting out of the decision fatigue. How do you feel like, we met back in February, we're in May now. How do you feel your weight loss results have transpired just by doing this work?
The weight loss has been great. So then, just to be absolute about it, so ever since the end of February till now, it's the end of May, it's been 20 pounds
Wow.
down and definitely slower than
Mhm.
the other programs that I've
Mhm.
done. So it's been March, April, May, right? So 3 months, 20 pounds, which sounds pretty
I
impressive.
know. I'm like, you're saying that's slow. I'm like, is it really slow? Like, what was happening?
Yeah, I know,
I
I
really wonder
know.
with some of these other weight loss, again, I can't say that I know about every single weight loss strategy out there, but half the time I'm like, are you just losing water weight? When somebody says that they lost like, pounds and pounds in a week, I'm like, that was inflammation. That was water weight. That was not fat loss.
Right,
And what
right.
I'm more interested in my clients is that you have fat loss while you maintain your muscle mass. I don't know about you. That's just my thoughts about
I
it. Like that's
I
impressive.
think that's where I am now, where I
Yeah.
think the first like maybe 8, 10 pounds was it came down pretty quickly, which is what
Yep.
you expect. I've gone through
Yep.
this so many times, right? Like, yes,
Yeah.
I lost that pretty quickly in the
Yep.
first couple months, but then after the first 10 pounds, which is another 10 pounds, it's
Yeah.
probably taken me about 2.5, 2 months.
Yeah.
And then I think now that I'm working out more,
Hmm.
I probably am gaining muscle too. So the weight
Yeah.
dropping is not as fast as it used to be,
Hmm.
which for some women I can see they're getting frustrated with that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. This is
They can get
that F it, screw it moment and like totally giving it up again.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm working so hard and I'm seeing no results.
Hmm.
But I think that's one of the things that you coach on so well, right? Is
Hmm.
you talk so many women, we we ask you
We
this.
talk
It's
about
like we're not seeing the
imperfection and
results.
perfectionism a lot because that's the biggest one for, I think, overachievers. We have a really very harsh and critical lens and we get very frustrated and impatient when we don't see quick wins every single week. And I'm like, we need more than popcorn brain, like the quick hits and quick pleasure. I'm like, let's keep your foot on the gas. Just trust me, keep your foot on the gas. Most people, when they feel like the results are slowing down or getting slow, they make the mistake of jumping ship. Make the mistake of taking their foot off the gas, and that's what it's like. We don't give it enough time to really create that momentum.
I think recently you've been coaching a lot about that to
Yeah.
a lot of us about how when you have off moments,
Hmm.
when you see the week where you set back, where
Hmm.
you gained instead of lost,
Yeah.
lose, right? And so you've been talking to a lot to us about how you cannot take those moments and let it be the moment that's gonna just make you,
Hmm.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You just have to pick right back up and
Yeah.
keep going with the plan and
Right.
don't give up.
Yeah.
And and as much as I say this to myself, you always say like imagine what you would tell your child is something that you
Yeah.
say too.
I know.
And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. We would be totally telling our children, you're not going to always be perfect. You're going
Hmm.
to have moments where it's not going to work out the way you want, but that doesn't stop you. You keep going
Yeah.
and you're going to get better at this and whatnot. And I'm like,
You
yes.
have to stick with it. But because Hazel, there's something very vulnerable, again, especially for smart, overachieving women, to stick with it when they feel like they've been imperfect. It's very vulnerable to do that. It's like you kind of feel like you're putting yourself out there and there's maybe some embarrassment or some shame or some judgment. And because we want to hide from that feeling, we take our foot off the gas. We go and hide, like we monkey emoji, we don't weigh in, we don't come to coaching calls, we stop engaging. And that is what I love coaching on because when we can learn how to treat ourselves with more regard and have the care to hold our vulnerable moments and the imperfection, keeping your foot on the gas, to me, that's when you skyrocket results, like on the scale. And also, I mean, we coach a lot on non-food, non-weight loss things in the group too.
So now that you said that, our first call ever, you also talked about stress.
Mhm.
And then I thought I was going into this program just to talk about weight. And then you said, but Hazel, so much about stress is what triggers your weight. So we have to address the stress part.
Mhm.
And so what's so different about this program is that all of us, all the women in the group are bringing in our stress in life to you, which I feel like
Yeah.
is a lot for you. But you're helping us through these difficult life moments because you understand that these are the moments that lead to snacking, scrolling, drinking the
Right.
alcohol. And if we don't figure out how to go through these experiences in a way that we're very mindful of what the effects are on your body and your habits, then we're never going to get anywhere in the long run.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's completely different from any other program,
Yeah.
right? Is everyday life, everyday stressors in your work, in your family, anything we bring to
Yeah.
you. It's not
Yeah.
even weight related at all.
It's so I know people come in thinking like,
Relationships.
wait, oh, we're going to be talking about food. And I'm like, maybe for one or two calls, or like maybe here and there we do talk about, of course, like going off plan or whatnot. But we're spending most of our time getting coached on our real life, on like, what are the stresses that we're having around time, productivity, around our kids, around because when we understand the thoughts we are having about our life, we can completely change our entire perspective and get so much more control back,
Correct.
which
So
is
this has ended up being so much bigger
mm.
than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. When you came to the conference and you came for money, you came to the
Correct.
Wealth and Wellness Conference because you wanted, obviously, like money was important to you. And investing in this group is a serious investment. So, talk
Yeah.
us through how you made the decision to invest financially in yourself, what you thought about it, what led you to be able to just decide this was absolutely something you were going to do, even though it was a serious investment.
So I've never heard about, I've heard about coaching. I've never known anything about it. I didn't know it was a mindset It
Mm-hmm.
was really focused on mindset. My world of exposure coaching first happened at that conference where I was
Mm-hmm.
meeting all these fabulous women who
Yeah.
were physician women who were also coaches in your own
Yeah.
different fields, right?
Right.
And so I was like, what is this coaching? And then so we would Google each of you. We would Google all the different coaches and then we would see how much your courses are. And
Yeah.
then honestly, the first initial shock was like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And like that's a big investment. And then it took me a while to come to the conclusion of, you know what, Hazel, nothing else has worked for you. Nothing else has worked for you. All the other things that you've tried also cost money. And look where you are now. And so that was part of my worry was, is this going to be a big investment that I'm just going to fail again?
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then I knew I had to do something for myself and I knew I had to do something different. And this obviously was very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved how you changed my mindset in 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
over lunch. That was my
Yeah.
first time being coached without even realizing
Without even
what being
realizing.
coached meant.
And I
And
think,
so I
yeah.
said, you know, if Priyanka
Yeah.
can change and improve my life in 10 minutes, how much more so over the course of 6 months? And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, I'm in. I just need to be in the space with people that I know are going to be more knowledgeable than me,
Mm-hmm.
can really help me like figure out what my issues are, which you did, like, because you have so many, you have how many women in the
Yeah.
cohort, but you
Yeah.
still are able to like give us one-on-one attention. And I love that. And
Yeah.
so I think meeting you and trusting that you are going to help me get to
Mm-hmm.
my goals and reach my goal of maintenance and make
Mm-hmm.
this a lifelong thing
Yeah.
is probably the biggest jump and leap of faith I had to take with investing with you. And I know the weight loss is slower, but I know I'm building habits. And that's the habits that's going to take me to the end goal where I want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and no more yo-yoing.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah, it's
that's
it's
what
like,
happened.
I feel like in the group, I think about this as like a really beautiful mix where you do get a lot of personal, like we follow your coaching thread, whether it's live on our call or inside the written coaching cafe, where we really follow your thread all the way through. And also you have the benefit of learning from other women. So what do you think about the group coaching dynamic and being in a group with other women? Is there anything that felt scary about that or vulnerable about that? Or have you just
Yeah.
loved it for every minute? Like, what was your experience of that?
As a doctor, right? We can't be weak.
Hmm.
We are supposed to know everything. We're supposed to be the one that everyone looks to for reassurance and guidance. And so we're only allowed to be vulnerable with certain people, our close friends, our close family. But when it comes to this struggle with weight loss, right? Not everyone in your family can help you through that the way you need it. And there's things you want to say that, and I told you when I first met you, I was like, me talking about my weight loss, I feel like this is important. Why does my weight loss journey matter? Like I felt so small compared to other people's problems.
Right. Like this is not a big deal compared to the real problems that people have.
Correct. And
Right.
so I felt like I couldn't talk to people about my struggles with my weight loss because there is so much bigger problems going on in the world that
Hmm.
it felt uncomfortable and it just didn't feel right
Yeah.
for me. But then to be in a space where all of these amazing, strong, powerful women are all allowed to be vulnerable together with no judgment, with nothing but love and support. I'm such a big believer in community, and this community is so special. And I think that's part of the success that we're all going to have together,
Yeah.
right? Because then we learn from each other. That feeling of, oh, it's also that feeling of isolation, right? And so now I'm not isolated anymore. Other women are struggling with me. So yeah, it's
I love
great.
that, Hazel. Thanks for sharing. If someone was considering joining the group, maybe they've been thinking about it for a while, they've been listening to the podcast and they try to take from the podcast and they try to implement it by themselves, but they know that coaching would be a great asset for them, but they're on the fence. What would you
Mhm.
say to that person?
I think coaching with Priyanka is unlike any other experience that you'll probably ever have with your weight loss journey and more,
Hmm.
just your life. You're going to receive a lot more than you expect. And so I'm super thankful that I decided to join your program. And it's a process. It's the thing. It's not here's a agenda that you need to fill every day. Here's your recipe for weight loss. It's really just like,
We're
Hazel,
changing
you
your
need,
identity. This is, I think we talked about this last week. It's like there's an evolution of your identity. I could give you, and like I know people do, you get like a PDF with 10 macros of this and 30 macros of this. And like we can give you a checklist, but there's something about that that falls flat when we cannot take it into our real life, when we're having
mhm,
struggles, when we're having travel, when we're with our busy kids and stresses at work. We have to do this deeper work of evolving our identity and catching our stories, catching those like little sneaky things that our brain comes up with to take us off track. How do we redirect our brain like to those high currency thoughts to, I think, unlock what I really want for more women is to feel their best inside out. And I think that that's kind of my mission, what I want for everybody in the group.
yes, absolutely. I think you're helping us build the skills that will help us make good, smart decisions with our health in whatever situation it may be, wedding, vacation,
Mm.
whatever. Those moments where you tend to fall off,
Yeah. And then we get to
still,
practice fall in like this is the best teacher. Let's fall off. And now let's figure out exactly
yeah,
how you're going to. That's the beauty of it. And I love it because now we get to teach the next generation how to do that, which is amazing.
we're not perfect, right? We're not
Mhm.
perfect. And as a women physician, that's something that a lot of us struggle to say. It's, we're not gonna always have it right. And this is one of those
Which is
things.
so good. So
But
good,
we're
Hazel.
always striving, we're striving,
Mm.
and we're always doing this for our family, for those that we love. I want to live long. I want to travel the world. I want to be with my husband for a long time. I want to see my kids grow up and have families. But that reality is only going to happen if I make those decisions today.
Mm.
And I need it to be sustainable. That's my journey. And so I think this method is probably the most effective way of making that happen compared to everything else I've tried so far.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Hazel. I'm so glad that you
Yeah.
came on the podcast. I know I was like, we're going to talk for about 30 minutes, and then here we are an hour later chatting.
Is it an
I
hour
am
already?
so grateful for you to come and share your story and your real journey. I know that it's not always easy to share, but I think that there's something deeply empowering when we own our whole story, when we own those ups and the downs. And I hope that somebody listening to this feels a little bit more inspired just by this conversation. So thank you so
Hope
much,
so.
Hazel, for coming on the
Yeah.
podcast. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thank
Bye.
you.
I hope you enjoyed today's conversation with Hazel. And if her story resonates with you, if you can tell that coaching, making magic action decisions, understanding how to have a plan and stick with it without deprivation, and creating more time and joy in your life is something you want, I want to encourage you to stop waiting. Doors to the upcoming cohort of the Unstoppable group are now open. I strongly encourage you to take a few minutes, head over to burnstressloseweight.com/group, where you can read all about the program, the nuts, the bolts, the details. You can really get an understanding of what it's like to work with me in this 6-month program. We have live group coaching calls, daily written support. You have the best combination, in my opinion, of personal coaching and mentorship. And at the same time, you get to learn from the coaching and the obstacles of other smart professional women, which to me is priceless. So if you want this, don't wait another minute. Head over to burnstressloseweight.com/group and hit the apply now button. Tell me a little bit about you so I get to know you, and then we will set up a time to talk on a consult call, or we can text each other back and forth and decide if this is the right fit for you. I cannot wait to see you on a call, and I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye.